said you've been in a variety of roles and you've supported most of the faculties while you've been there. It said that you've led supporting researchers. I note, is that right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so same as I said, Bob told me that you'd developed the departmental referencing styles in RefWorks.
Oh yes.
And so it really was. It was a glowing report from Bob. It really was. So Jane today is going to talk about your first year as doing systematic reviews at UCLan. So I'm going to pass over to Jane now. Any questions, any chats, we'll get to it at the end, but please do put them in that chat box and I'm going to mute.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes. Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And thanks to Louise for organising these lovely systematic review conversations. They are really helpful. I'll just begin by sharing my slides and I'll start off, of course. Louise did ask me to speak about my first year, and it's now gone into the second year. I can't even remember how long it is really, since it was actually my line manager, Louise, that asked me to begin the support for the systematic reviews. So yeah, it's just my take on how I've done that and what my role is already at UCLan, and I suppose a bit of everything that I've been doing. So yeah, here goes. So my current role is a subject librarian. So I am the subject librarian for health sciences, sports sciences and social work. So they're all pretty big schools, lots of undergrads, postgrads and PhD students. So there's already a lot of work there. So and I provide the training for our graduate research school. And we do this online now, so it was really done in the classroom previously to COVID, but then everybody wanted that training online. So previously we had systematic reviews included in that, and my colleague used to do that. And so that's when my line manager actually asked me to step in and do that part. My colleague was supporting another big school, so it makes sense really that I took on the SR support, primarily because a lot of the SRs were coming through the graduate research school. Yeah, another duties I have or support is the reference management. So anything goes wrong with any of our reference management tools, such as RefWorks and EndNote, which are the two reference management systems that we support, then I tend to take on those, or I do. So and yeah, I have an emerging interest in the AI tools that are currently used for systematic reviews. So all in all, that's my current role. And as Louise said, yeah, I've certainly done different roles since working at UCLan, but that's where we're at the moment. And yeah, it's been a gradual process. So it's worked really well in terms of the support, the subject support that I do. There's been no major issues, but it's just been a really good learning curve. Coincidentally, a lot of our BA physiotherapists, speech and language therapists, MAs, and PhD social workers have been asking for systematic reviews or systematic support. So it has come quite timely for myself and my colleagues. So it's been a good learning curve for me in terms of the questions I've been asked recently, and of course having to step up my knowledge about systematic reviews. So I suppose that brings the big question is, are they doing a systematic review, or is it a systematic approach that they've been asked to do? And as some of you may know, that a systematic approach is going to be the approach they'll be doing as an undergrad. So it's not going to be a systematic review, but whether the students are getting either confused, because why would they know what a systematic review is, or the academics are, and that has happened too, then of course we just question that once they come to us, whatever variety of ways they come to either our appointments or they ask us by the email or whatever way that is, then of course we try to determine that the answer to that. And I was happy to hear that from one of Louise's sessions that I attended. I think it was one of the SR conversations where she'd got Dr. Michelle Madden in. She's a lecturer in evidence synthesis at the University of Liverpool, and she also said that this is a big question, of course, that is probably, I don't know whether it's trending or whether there's a lot of people are being asked to do these research questions, but it's certainly something that we're often asked to, or we certainly think about. And often the way we find that out is we may look at the assignment brief. If it's an undergraduate student that's asking us that, and we can check that on Blackboard. So there's a variety of ways that we try to find out whether it's a systematic review or a systematic approach. But yeah, certainly don't be afraid to ask the academic if you're not sure. We've certainly had to do that, so it's not a problem if we get to that stage. And have a look. Other common issues. So certainly be familiar with exporting lots of results to your reference management systems and what the maximum is. I can't say I've had any recently. My colleagues certainly have over the years, but it's all about the capacity when we're doing a systematic search. You may be dealing with lots of results, you may not, but certainly there's capacities for exporting those results, and they're often compressed files that will need extracting. So that's certainly an issue when you're dealing with lots and lots of results. I like to familiarise myself with the AI products that are now coming to the forefront. Even though we don't actually support any at the moment, we are going to be looking at doing that. I do believe, and I was told this by one of the academics I was assisting and doing a systematic review. She was using Ryan, and she was telling me that a lot of the researchers do use Ryan. I believe you can get a free single-use license. I do have one, not a license, a login, but with the other products, then I presume you have to have an institutional login for those. So I think we will be trialing Covidence at some point. But yeah, I've just seen that in action, so I like to see how that works. But like I say, I've not really delved too much into it. And then really, don't expect each database, as you probably already know, it certainly doesn't have the same functionality and the same sort of search history that you can combine your terms with. But you know, this just needs to be pointed out and documented. Each database will certainly have the same Boolean operators, but certainly not the same functionality that you think you have to repeat on every database. And this just needs looking at really in terms of the database that you're suggesting. So lots of detail to analyse which database has what options when you're, of course, adding that search. And then, you know, teamwork. Ask your team members if you're unsure. You can certainly work it out between yourselves. Don't expect to know the answer immediately. I've certainly talked things over with my colleagues if I spot something, and I may know the answer myself. Sometimes it's just good to chat to your colleagues and work it out between you, because of course you don't come across these queries every day, and you can certainly work it out. It's not rocket science, but at the same time, it certainly is. It can be tricky. Our current support, we actually offer systematic reviews support, like I say, through the Graduate Research Skill Training Programme. So they organise all of that, and they just ask us to provide online training. So that's booked with literature searching training and reference management. Now, so far, there's not been an awful lot of students that have understood what a systematic review is, and we have said a prerequisite of attend a literature searching session before you come to this one. And we even find, of course, as you will, literature searching is complex, and even that is not fully understood at PhD level. So it's built into the programme, but we always say come to your subject librarian for further support. So it's nothing too intense that we provide. It's really an overview, just a presentation that we do. And then, of course, if they are doing a full systematic review, then they would go to their subject librarian or to myself to fully develop that. And then recently, we've been asked to, or I have been asked to provide the same support for research staff, part of their induction programmes, I do believe. So systematic reviews, literature search and reference management, the same really as what we do with our graduate research students, so that they've got the full facility, or they understand the full facility that we have once they get stuck into their roles. So we've just started those recently, just this year. And they used to be a combined service actually with the graduate research programme. So it's a split up support. So that's why that's slightly different. And then our library ask appointments, they're bookable for the students. So they still come in, and as normal, they're bookable through our Starfish programme. And so students, PhD students, will particularly ask for that type of support through our ask appointments. Or of course, they'll just email us. So whatever way they approach us, but they are really how students get in touch with us for systematic review support. And yeah, other tips, of course, do join any of the JISC mailing lists. I'm currently on the, I think it's just called systematic review support. And also I'm on a new one that our information specialist has given me tips on. So I recently met with her, and she certainly gave me a bigger scope of her workload. So really, for those of you out there who are subject librarians and you're thinking of taking on systematic review support, then do check out within your institution if you have information specialists. You may not even be aware of them. It depends how your institution is set up, but we do have one information specialist, I do believe, in our health assessment hub. So she is the information specialist that will support the staff that are publishing papers. So that's a completely different role. I'm not claiming to be an information specialist and subject librarian still. So, you know, that is an intense specialist support that she provides to the staff, and that's outside of LIS. So, completely different, really. But certainly great tips, and I certainly learnt a lot off her. So yes. She also got me on another mailing list, so expert searching it's called. I'm not quite sure where that's come from, but yeah, that's another place to, of course, get some tips and advice. And yeah, don't be afraid to reach out for advice to these communities. Everybody's really helpful, and I certainly acknowledge that some of the mailing lists, you do get some really intense questions, but there's a lot of people out there that will certainly ask you answer your basic questions. So I think everybody's certainly really helpful. CLA update. I'm not sure if many of you are aware that the sharing of articles for systematic reviews is being considered at the moment. So that's certainly an issue. My CLA team, or our copyright team, keep up to speed with, and my colleagues are certainly keeping on top of that, and will be adhering to of course that when it's available. I think we had word this week that hoping that may be announced in August, but because of course the British Library website has been down, we haven't been able to process any of those anyway. But yeah, that is something that we have to be aware of, and how that's going to be managed in the future. And of course, reflection, I suppose. It's been a great learning curve for myself, and the subject roles that I've already been involved with has been really, I suppose this has been the next step in terms of any advanced searches I've been doing over the years. I've certainly built up the knowledge on how to keep that consistent, and the techniques that are needed for each database. But yeah, what I've learned so far is to be confident in my searches, be precise, think clearly about why the search is different from an advanced search. And then, you can explain all this to the student, because they really have no idea, and they're really hoping, they're looking to you for the advice, but every database is completely different. So for those of you out there who perhaps use EBSCO as a favourite, I'm one of those, and I can't say I use Ovid an awful lot. And when I met with our information specialist, she certainly uses Ovid and prefers Ovid. And I realise there's a lot more functionality in there. And so my knowledge has really been using, I feel a bit of a cheat really using EBSCO, because it is so easy to use, and there's perhaps not as much functionality on there, especially if it's systematic reviews and the things that you're documenting. I may be wrong, but yes, certainly I think I need to up my knowledge in that area, and I feel like I'm building my knowledge as I go, but it's been a steady and slow process, but it's really suited me in terms of the support I already have to give in my subject role and all my other roles. So I don't feel like it's been particularly taxing on my workload. And like I say, it's really come at a good, it's been great timing. It's come at a good point, and I've really enjoyed it. So the main supporting of systematic reviews, like I say, has come through via our PhD prof doc students. Research staff have also reached out to us, and those individual ask appointments where students have needed to perhaps have a bit of additional support. They may already have an idea of their systematic review, and they just want you to tidy it up, help them tidy it up, and just check the searches. I only had one this morning, so something was just about to go to publication and come back, and so they just wanted some help to see if that search was if it was working on Scopus, I think. So we just rerun it on there. So some things aren't as intense as what you may think they're going to be. It's just really all different types of queries, but it's been really, really useful. And like I say, if there's anything I'm unsure about, I can always check in with my line manager, Louise. She's really good. She's very supportive. And if there's anything I need to talk over, then I've got anything tricky to discuss, then she certainly support me in anything that I'm unsure about. Any future plans, any considerations? So yes, I'm certainly prepared for more meaty queries coming my way. So certainly keeping on top of any systematic review training I can attend. I am attending a couple of paid courses in April, and any sort of technology that's developing along the way. So I really need to keep up to speed with any developments, and just really trying to balance that in my daily workloads, and trying to keep up to date with anything else that's emerging. And then, of course, we must create some sort of policy or process at least for my colleagues, because this systematic review searching is certainly trending outside of health sciences. My colleagues have reported that they've done several support sessions for policing and business. So it'd be nice to hear from you if any of you out there are being asked to support systematic review searches, whether it's a systematic approach or a systematic review, and certainly in certain disciplines. So it's not really just tied to the health sciences, I don't think, anymore. We've recently subscribed to Overton as well. So that's in addition to the academic sources. We're aware that that grey literature is available in policy format as well. So lots of resources, hopefully, to think about in the future. And keeping up to speed with what everybody else is doing. So I realise that is everything I've spoken about. I don't think there's anything else I can think of. I realise it's not really filling a full hour or anything, but really that's what's happened over the last 18 months or more, and it's not been too difficult. So if anybody out there is thinking of supporting systematic reviews or being the main support, I think that's my role as I see it at the moment, then go for it. Definitely, it's really interesting.
It's thank you, Jane. I think it's nice to get that perspective. I've been doing it for so long that sometimes I forget, that first year. I think if I remember rightly, it was quite daunting, even. And the terminology the terminology is being loosely used now, as you said, alluded to at the beginning. Are we doing a systematic review? Are we really doing a systematic review? I don't think it was maybe not quite as confused when I started a million years ago. But it does seem to be the terminology does seem to be a lot more confusing now. And we've got undergrads who are coming to us really stressed about the fact that they've got to do a systematic review, when actually no, they're not doing a systematic review. And you can feel the tension from them. It's a shame sometimes. Now, we have got some questions in. I'd put a couple in, but I'm going to go to the other ones first, and if we've got time for mine, we'll do those. So let me see. How much of your time is spent supporting ESSA alongside your subject librarian role?
Yeah, that's a good question, isn't it? And I think that's what I was bothered about at first. It's very sporadic, so I couldn't really put a time on it. I would say with these questions that we're talking about, where people are saying, is it a systematic approach? I think we've had to unpick that quite regular over this last semester, really, and these last 2 semesters. So it's a very small part, all in all. It's not a lot. It's not. I couldn't say it's 10%, 20%. It's not that at all. Yeah, it's difficult to say, but I don't feel like it's massively impacted my role.
Are the numbers, is it getting busier? Are you finding it's getting busier?
Yes, yes.
And you said that you've got an information spec.
Yes, yes. And I believe that's quite different in some institutions. I attended a systematic review. It wasn't one of your conversations, Louise, the other day, but there were several librarians there, and I got the gist that some information specialists are in LIS, others aren't. So ours, Kath, she's in our health assessment hub, and she's actually funded by a charity and with the university combined. So she's supporting the staff when they are publishing, and she's asking for authorship. So she's actually named on some of the on the publications. So that's not my role necessarily. It's really the students that I'm supporting. She's supporting the staff. So I think Louise is frozen. I'll just go to the chat to see if there's anything I can immediately answer. Gosh, I've got to go right back to the top. All right, yeah, great. Yes, wonderful. Somebody said, can recommend Covidence. Yeah, we have it at the University of Edinburgh, and it is well received. I've not used Ryan, and it's the other one that, yes. Yeah, okay, that's great. Thank you for that. Yeah, we are going to trial Covidence. So yeah, and this is all part of it, isn't it? It's all learning about what people are using, and oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, somebody said the systematic review conversations are loaded on YouTube. Yeah, I find them really helpful. And this is how I've learned about my supporting role, really. And other people have said, yeah, I've not really shown Ryan to anyone. They've sort of shown me some of ours. I think they've been staff members that have showed me Ryan. That's how I learned about it. So, everybody's different. And yeah, the single login is free, isn't it? Let's see how long that'll last, because it may be a while, or it may be sooner rather than later that they introduce institutional sign-in. And of course, somebody else has said, oh yes, of course, somebody was discussing this SR accelerator. Right, okay, I must check that out. Yeah, and you're using that with Citaro. Okay, yep, of course. And I think, again, yeah, you'll have to see how they work well with your reference management system. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, somebody's got some tips there about using Ryan. Louise is back, I think. And I was just going through the chat, Louise.
Sorry, I didn't realise it was me that had frozen, and I was chatting away, and I was like, I've lost Jane. Has everybody else lost Jane? And then I realised it must have been me. So sorry about that, everyone.
It's all right. Yeah,
So,
I was just going through the chat, Louise, and I was just saying, yeah, I got up to the bit where people were saying about they've been using Ryan. That was really useful, and Confidence.
yeah, we advise Rayan,
Yeah.
because we've got a point where we actually stop with students and we don't go any further.
Okay. Yes.
So we advise with Rayan, but Confidence is always a conversation that's murmuring in the background.
I see.
If we should have it or not.
Right.
Okay.
So what would you say the main differences between Ryan and Confidence then, Louise?
Well, I've got no real experience of Confidence, and I do know Rayan have just updated and added some new functions in, which I've got a free trial for, but I've not actually had a look at it yet.
Okay.
But you can it creates the Prisma flow, but I think the Confidence does as well.
Okay.
So I think they might be quite similar now in the features and the functions. But someone else may know better than I do on that.
Okay.
I'm sure somebody does.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go back to the questions.
Right.
Oh, there's quite a few now.
Mm.
Okay, so do you advise on the whole systematic review process or just on the search?
When we advise, I suppose it depends which way it's coming in. If somebody's if they're asking for definitely systematic review searches, then yeah, we'll run through the process, but we'll check the searches work as well. And each query seems to be different. It depends if they're working, if they may have queries on them. So yeah, a bit of both, I think.
Well, we've just as I alluded to before, we kind of got a definite stop. I'm saying only, it depends if it's a research group or if it's students, but if it's students, we do tend to stop before screening starts. So we help them with the search process. But anything else, they go back to the convener for it. But if it's a research group, that's different and will help a bit further down the line. So it's slightly different on both of those. David's put in, and this might be a chat one rather than a question one. Ovid versus EBSCO interface. Curious to learn the differences in functionality that this group are aware of. So I'm going to let people in the chat answer that as well, if you want to answer that as well, Jane.
Okay, yes, yeah, absolutely. Are you saying which one would you use?
He wants to know what the differences are.
Oh, the difference,
between
sorry.
Ovid and EBSCO. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if somebody else wants to answer that, because I was saying earlier that I'm not a big user of Ovid, and I couldn't tell you completely what the differences are, but I noticed the other day just on a paper, and it was one that our information specialist had written, and that she'd searched for one particular word with the functionality that wasn't available on EBSCO. So it was that really that drew me to it. So I'm thinking that it's not just on all fields or title or abstract. You don't have the same functionality on EBSCO to do that. She was running all the searches in Ovid, so it's very detailed. So
I'm
that's
just trying to easy track numbers in Confidence. I was just looking at the chat as well. EBSCO's adjacency searching is better than Ovid, though. And someone has put somewhere the title and abstract field is harder in EBSCO than versus Ovid. That's all I can see in the chat on that. See if anyone else has put anything in there. There's N either side and W, which is one, then the other. Yeah. So the N, yeah, and then W is depends on how you put the words in, doesn't it? My brain has gone absolutely dead on that there. Then.
Yeah.
Ovid's better functionality for saving, running, and editing. And then people are asking about Ray and does deduplication as well and screening. So that's all in the chat.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, yeah. I don't say that I can't say I've gone to deduplication level on Ryan, and I've always advised the students to do that in RefWorks or EndNote first.
Yeah, no, we tend to say the same, to be
Do
fair.
you?
Yeah, and then if they want to do it again in Rayan, fine, or Confidence, but we normally tell them to export into a reference management systems first. But not everyone's got subscriptions to them, so perhaps that's why. So another question: what is the difference between a systematic review and a systematic approach?
Yeah. Well, a systematic approach is really what the undergrads have been asking us for. And that's a systematic approach to the literature search. And so they're doing it in a systematic way, as in they will run an advanced search even, and they document their results according to how many databases they've used. But there's no screening involved or synthesizing. It's sometimes maybe using a Prisma document still to diagram to detail the amounts, but there's like I say, no synthesizing, no screening involved, and it's a very short assignment word count, so we can usually tell from that basically. But a systematic review, we really try to evaluate. If it's a PhD student, in other words, it's more likely to be a systematic review, and then we'll just double check that with the academic. I hope that's answered that.
Right, I've lost questions, so I know what I'm really sorry, guys. My internet is really playing up today. I know one of my questions was, you mentioned that you was going on some courses in April.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Which courses are they? I'm sure everybody would like to know what courses they are.
Yeah, let's have a look. It's 2 days actually. They start at 3 o'clock, I think, 3 till 6. 23rd of April and the 30th of April. They're paid courses, and they are they're run by Julie Glanville and Carol Leveth. I can't pronounce her surname. Yes, I can put that detail in the chat if you like.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. So then people can have a look at those. We're always on the lookout for what courses we can be doing. And I know Catherine, just while you're doing that, Catherine from Worcester. So Catherine, myself, Erin, and Jada have created a COP via Discord. And there's loads of questions and things get asked in there, lots of resources, good lists. I know Catherine's put the link on, but again, shameless plug. If you want to be included, just come over and join us. But yeah, what I'm saying is we'll probably take that over and put that in the Discord as well, so people have got that there in case they've not come to this one. I also had another question. Well, I had a few questions actually. Have you looked at Gen AI for certain aspects of the SRs? So have you looked at, it's not Bing anymore, is it? It's Gemini or is that right? Bard, Gemini. Have you looked at any of those chat GPTs?
Not seriously, no. I think I've played with them. But no, I can't say I have. That is very interesting, yes, to see how they're developing. What about yourself?
I always use it, and when I'm teaching, I use the caveat of, be responsible. If you're going to use it, then you need to reference, depending on what they're using it for. We're obviously looking into the guidelines and trying to put it all together as an institution. I think people are a little bit cautious as yet, but some students are using it, so it's about using it responsibly, I think.
Yes, same here, really. Our institution is really looking closely at it and trying to give us some guidance on it. So we are being led by them, but yeah, we're certainly aware of how we're going to be expected to guide in and out of that area.
Yeah, and it will. There's a paper actually just been published, and I'll find it and I'll put it in the chat and I'll put it in the Discord. It was all published last week, talking about how they can use chat GPT for as a tool for systematic reviews. I'll find it and put it in the chat. What else have we got? Someone's talking about confidence, which has been spoke about quite a lot on the that one's already been asked. What courses? So somebody else has asked about course. I think apart from, I wrote, what frequently asked questions do you get from students?
What in terms of like a systematic review? I suppose what databases to use. That's a classic one, isn't it? And sometimes they think they've got to use 10 or more databases. The more, the better. And they think that's perhaps part of the systematic review. And yeah, I think that's the main one, which databases to use.
Rosie's put in the chat, how many results do I need?
Yes. Oh, sorry, that's a good one. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think they're either overwhelmed by the thousands or then they think they haven't got enough. But you know, as we know, it's all down to the subject. So it's the same as your undergrad searches. Sometimes they come up, sometimes they don't. Sometimes there's too much, sometimes there isn't enough. So yeah, I think they're very similar, really. It's just the approach that's different. And once you get used to doing that, and you see that the question is very either well written about, well researched or not,
Yeah.
then yeah, your results are going to be really different.
Yeah, it's very true. Catherine's just put in, one student asked me that and said, and don't you dare say how long is a piece of string, but they did anyway. Because we can't answer it, can we?
No, no.
I don't think there are any more questions, Jane.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you again, because without
Yeah.
you doing these presentations, these webinars, these kind of things can't happen. And it's just such a good way of sharing, and everyone,
Yeah.
just so we all know, we're all thinking the same, or we're all learning something every day. It's just one of those things that's getting bigger and bigger, I think, systematic reviews. So thank you very much, and thank you to everyone who's attended as well, because again, without you guys, this wouldn't happen.
Exactly. Yeah, no, thank you, Louise. This is great that you're kicking it all off. It's brilliant. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, and we will speak soon.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Bye,
See you later.
everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.